All right. So for the inaugural, first inaugural is that anyway, React that I'll be uploading to YouTube. I wanted to check out this video. I saw some other folks, including the Immortal Asmongold, reacted to this either yesterday or today. I don't know, but this is one I had queued up for the first one. So for context, I played Diablo 2 back when I was a kid. Played it, all the way through hell difficulty. Played it again after it released, in the late 2000s, and then I did play the remaster. I don't know too much about this individual content creator, Extimus. I looked through his channel, and most of it is Diablo 2 related. And he's got, hundreds of thousands, and there's a couple of videos, or at least one here that's over 1 million. So, guy clearly loves Diablo, is a longtime fan of it, and so he seemed like somebody who's a bit of an authority on the matter. So with that, I wanted to watch this video entitled "Why Diablo 2 Players Hate Diablo 4," and as a Diablo 2 player, I'm interested to know why I should hate Diablo 4. And I have not gotten Diablo 4 access. I didn't apply for it, and I am literally a brand new content creator. I just started about a week ago now. So Blizzard wouldn't have given it to me based on reaching out and check out this new game for us kind of thing.
Diablo 4 is now a spin-off version of Diablo 3, Path of Exile, and World of Warcraft.
Diablo is a spin-off of Path of Exile. Interesting. Okay. Well, so for those who don't know, Diablo is like the OG Diablo 1, but Diablo 2 was kind of the pinnacle, in my opinion, and I think this guy's as well, of dungeon crawlers. And the guys who created Path of Exile are very open and honest about the influence that Diablo 2 had on them and had on their creation, Path of Exile. Don't know World of Warcraft. He'll explain it, so I'm curious.
The RNG random number generator game mechanics that made Diablo 2 the greatest game of all time through randomized.
Okay. Well, not to pause too frequently here, but I appreciate actually. So he calls Diablo 2 the greatest game of all time. That is a hell of an award. Now he probably believes it, and based on his channel, that is his favorite game of all time. But I like that he is, whether he meant to or not, he is entirely upfront about his bias here. So he believes Diablo 2 is the greatest game of all time. To him, that is the pinnacle of gaming. Out of all the games that have ever existed, at the very least since Diablo 2 came out, which at this point is about 20 years, if not more. I think it's actually more than 20 years. This is it. This is the pinnacle of gaming to him. So hopefully, he's got a decent amount of views. So hopefully he's not he's like I said, he's open about his bias, but hopefully he's not too biased where he can't see sort of around that or try to put it aside in an attempt to give a reasonable take or analysis of the upcoming Diablo 4 and the gameplay mechanics and so on. But again, gotta respect somebody who's basically just upfront, whether they mean to or not.
It's loot, dungeons, monster spawns, and even skill damage ability gave you
that might be the open world Diablo.
A new experience every time you logged on to the game, and has given the player base infinite replay value for 20 years.
Infinite replay value for 20 years. Sure. I mean, his opinion. And again, he seems to just make infinite Diablo 2 content, so that seems to be it for him. True for him. Personally, no. I mean, this is HD. Okay. Oh, it wasn't HD. My bad. Sorry about that, guys. Diablo 2 is really fun. Its replayability, yes, there is something magic about you're literally doing the same thing over and over, but it still feels fun. Whether it's incremental improvements in how fast you clear mobs or kill bosses or so on. Yes, infinite, or even, and not to be pedantic because you use the word infinite, and infinite literally means never ending. And no, nothing is never ending really. But putting that aside, just taking them to mean a lot, huge, vast amounts of replayability. Even that is like, I mean, I played, like I said, as a kid, I played in between a couple times. I played when the remaster came out. Fun, yes. Infinite, no. I mean, the bosses are the same. For those who don't know, endgame Diablo 2 content is I am going to farm the same couple of bosses, basically, quite literally hundreds of times, and potentially never get what I want. And if that sounds depressing and like it would sap motivation, it absolutely does. And it does take a special kind of person who, frankly, does have like a sort of headstrong, just put your head down and grind mental attitude to be able to go through that, because it is, in my opinion, potentially more frustrating than like grinding out raids in an MMO to try and get a drop. Like, yes, you can keep doing these over and over and over, but you can literally do hundreds of runs of bosses and not get what you want, and do 100 more and 200 more and still not get what you want. And that is not, in my mind, really infinite replayability. Withholding a piece of item or a piece of gear or whatever, in this case, it's going to be runes for Diablo 2. Withholding that from a player isn't infinite replayability. It's just a very low drop chance, and you are doing the same thing over and over in an attempt to get it. So
Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive gameplay style that gives you the same experience over and over. That is less rewarding and is for the casual player base and MMORPG-based game mechanics. Now,
is that Tyrael's sword? Is this him? This might be him.
Player base and MMORPG-based game.
I want to hear why, but I just wanted to pause real quick because that's a pretty dope sword. I don't know. It looks like it might be foam or something. I mean, it doesn't need to be metal plate or anything, but...
Now, I've been considered one of the most controversial Diablo 2 content creators for my critical opinions.
You've been... Okay.
And somewhat of an outcast because of them. 98% of Diablo-specific content...
Okay. I don't know this guy. I mean, certainly not personally, but I don't know like what he is alluding to. Maybe he... I mean, there's hot takes, and then there's incendiary, like, hateful content. So I don't know what he's alluding to. I'll assume that it's just kind of he had some hot takes around either Diablo 2 or Diablo 3, and he feels like he's right, and he's steadfast about it, and that's fine. He's got opinions, and other people aren't convincing him otherwise. This list on the left, I don't really recognize anyone. I recognize the top part. So I watched, this is about a year ago now. I think it was less than a year ago. They did a kind of a season for the Diablo 2 remaster. And I just happened, sadly, to start playing like a few weeks before that, and I didn't. So in order to play the new season, you got to create a new character, and I was like, I don't want to do this. But as a part of that, they were doing a first sort of a rush to level 99, which is a pretty big slog. And that actually put up pretty good numbers on Twitch relative to like you just don't really see Diablo 2, even the remaster, on the top. I don't know where they're at now, but I mean, I'm sure they're not where they were. And Mr. Llama, I think he's probably the most, I don't know if well-known is the right term, but probably the most well-known guy on Twitch who does Diablo 2 stuff. If not, like, kind of saw the most success, at least him and his group did, at this rush to 99. I think he was actually number 2. I think the guy below him, Dobrunsky, I don't remember if he was in his group, but I think if he was, and this might be like their group of 4 or 5 people that they did it with, but I think it was, so he was like, I think Mr. Llama was a Hammerdin, a Hammer Paladin, and if this was the guy, I think he was a Javazon, and he ended up actually getting it. The rest of these people, I don't know. So if he's about to make, go through these people and make comments, I don't know. I don't know any of them.
Creators are partnered with Blizzard. And this is probably 8% of Diablo-specific content creators are partnered with Blizzard. And this is probably why you have never seen me use the hashtag Diablo partner. I've always expressed myself to the fullest and never tried to gain the approval of everybody, which is an impossible task when fully being yourself. The game is my love and passion, though. I will be as old as Decker King, going on a rant about game mechanics
as old as Decker King.
And just my overall love for the game. All of my opinions come from a place of love.
So is he basically saying without saying, though, that like all of these people aren't being honest with their content? Like, again, I don't know too much about, I mean, I don't really know any of these folks. I know I watched some of the World Rush that this guy did, the level 99 rush. Was he disingenuous? I mean, I don't know. He sat there just grinding it out. Like, I remember his girlfriend was like really helpful and like basically just bringing him food because he just played the game for, I mean, it's like days at a time, or I don't remember exactly how long it took. I certainly wasn't going to sit there and watch it for the entire time, but I mean, that was almost like a subathon level of just like insane grinding. Sort of like one of those like WoW world first sort of grinds that you see or used to see. They probably still do it, but I don't really pay attention to it. But yeah, if he is kind of saying that these guys are not being honest, or they're effectively like paid speakers basically on behalf of Blizzard, I mean, they do get. I'm guessing they do get some kind of access at the very least. I mean, anyone who's a big enough content creator and or a specific content creator, so like, a giant Twitch streamer is going to get access to basically anything, but somebody who is a fraction of his size but only makes content for Diablo, like you would expect to get Diablo 4 content, I don't think access makes you necessarily like for lack of a better word, I guess like a shill. But you can see how it kind of colors somebody's commentary potentially, because they want to keep on good terms with Blizzard. And, companies can be somewhere between vindictive and just protective. Like, it's vindictive if somebody says anything negative to just be like, we're never giving you access. But also, this guy said he was a little bit like, he's a little bit of a bad boy, I think is what he was going for. So if he's just being if he's just kind of being a dick, I mean, who wants to give access to a dick? Don't answer that, but you know what I'm saying. So, I don't know, maybe there's some scandal in the D2 world that, like all of these guys he listed are on a payroll and therefore can't say what they want. So maybe he's right. I haven't heard any of that. I haven't looked into it, but I kind of doubt it. Kind of. I mean, would I be surprised? No. But unless he's going to show clips of like screenshots of like paychecks or like emails that are like accidentally CC'd to everybody so you can see a CC list, it's like, you are not allowed to say anything negative. Then I don't know. This seems like a saying without saying that like you can't trust these guys because Blizzard gave them access. And it's like, that's not fair either. You're a content creator. You need access. Like, if you're especially if you're going to like niche yourself into Diablo specifically, let alone like dungeon crawlers in general as a genre, you're going to need access to the new ones. You need content. This is your livelihood. This is how you make money. This is how you put food on the table. You need access. It is what it is.
This is probably why you have never seen me use the hashtag Diablo partner. I've always expressed myself to the fullest and never tried to gain the approval of everybody, which is an impossible task when fully being yourself. The game is my love and passion, though. I will be as old as Decker King, going on a rant about game mechanics and just my overall love for the game. All of my opinions come from a place of love, and I want Diablo to be in the spotlight like it should have been for the past 20 years. So let's talk about how the Diablo 4 game mechanics work.
So he didn't, I mean, he just put up a list of people that seemed like he was just like, don't trust these people, which maybe in some of these videos, it looks like I have watched one of his things, or at least one of his videos. I mean, I don't really like. I mean, it looks like he just makes like informative videos. I don't see anything about, I don't know, other content creators being bad or not trustworthy. So I don't know. If you know, feel free to comment down and like, oh yeah, Mr. Llama was like caught in this. he was caught with his hand in the proverbial cookie jar, and he got access to D4 and was told you're not allowed to say a single negative thing, and then he never said a single negative thing. And it's like, well, shit. But anyway,
how Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive experience from a Diablo 2 player perspective, explaining the core game mechanics that are important to understand for the long-term success of Diablo 4 or any Diablo game. Diablo is
I mean, there's been 3 Diablo, well, 4, including Immortal. I honestly sometimes just forget that was a thing. Did not play Diablo Immortal at all. Just felt like pointless. Seemed like decent content if you were willing to put in like a bunch of money and basically do like a gambling stream, but you're allowed to do it on Twitch because it's in game. But I mean, out of the 3 Diablo games, there's only been one, and if we define success as had a long-term sort of some level of staying power and also impact on gaming and on its genre in particular, it's really just D2. D1 was a stepping stone for D2, but like nobody, you go back and play D1, it kind of doesn't suck, but it kind of sucks. The story's, I think, pretty interesting in D1, but the one thing that you could just never really go back to from D2 is that there's no running in D1. You are literally at walking speed the entire game. You can never run in Diablo 1. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like literally every Diablo game, like Diablo 1 and 2 were both crazy. Like once Diablo 2 came out, I don't think anyone even thought about D1 really again, frankly. Honestly. At least I didn't. That's maybe that's just my opinion.
Unique gameplay styles of Diablo 4 or any Diablo game. Diablo's unique gameplay style and replay value is possible through the term RNG, the random number generator. This was the main core revolutionary game mechanic of Diablo 2. This core value has been exiled from the Diablo franchise since the release of Diablo 3.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, you see it on screen. RNG is a random number generator. It's, you know, values for damage, drop chances, like they call them, what do they call them? They call them like map tiles. So in Diablo 2, maybe it was the same in Diablo 1, I don't remember, but when you play, not single player, when you play multiplayer, when you're doing all these runs for farming, like every dungeon is different in the sense that you don't know where, because all dungeons are like, you generally start at level 2 because you have a waypoint, and then you have to go to like level 3 and or level 4. And in order to find those, you need to find the doors that go to them. And getting to those doors, they're kind of in different places. So you're wandering around a little bit, so there's some variability there. You don't literally know where you need to go. But that's like, it's different, but it's not that different. Now, like loot tables and stuff like that is kind of, you know, it's random. The damage you do can be quite variable. For example, like lightning damage on the sorceress, it literally has always the lowest value of 1. So like you can end up hitting someone for like, or a boss for insanely high levels of damage, but you can also hit them for nothing. But most abilities and stuff, there's like a range, you know, like 50 to 100 damage or 1,000 to 1,200 damage or something like that. So there's some variability in it. You're not always going to kill a boss in exactly 3 hits kind of thing, but you could kill it in 2, you could kill it in 4 or 5 or 6. Now, he said they were gone. RNG is gone since Diablo 3. I played a bit of Diablo 3. I've probably played more D2, not as much as this guy, from the looks of it. I mean, drops are random. I remember the maps are kind of in the same way random. I remember thinking like they didn't do much to iterate. It was kind of disappointing. They didn't innovate really on like the kind of map tile system. I don't know the underlying tech, so like it could be different in a way that is actually impressive, but it seems similar to D2 where it's just like, I know I have to go down. Like you're always going down in Diablo for the most part. A few times you go back up, pop up, and then you end up going into a different dungeon, going down. So other than like boss arenas where you would fight bosses in Diablo 3, or really any Diablo game, like that seems the same. So I guess I should probably just let him finish his thought as to why they're gone. But I was just trying to think, like, I don't know that they're really gone in Diablo 3.
And now abandoned by Diablo 4. Now, you may have asked yourself, what is it? What is it about Diablo 2 that made that game the greatest game of all time?
No, I want to know about the RNG thing. So the claim was like RNG is gone in Diablo 3 and now Diablo 4, but like, Is it?
Why did I spend 20 years playing this game and
why did any of us spend any money?
With
that's a valid question outside this game, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, good question.
My studies of quantum physics and my spiritual journey, I realized with my studies of quantum physics and my spiritual journey, I realized 95% of our brain's thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, perceptions, and more function like an automatic, unconscious computer program.
Dr. Joe Dispenza explains 95% of who you are is just a set of memorized behaviors, skills, emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, and attitudes that functions like a subconscious automatic computer. So basically, like, you're almost sleepwalking through life. Is that kind of what this is saying? Like, your past experiences, skills, your emotional reactions, which I guess are like chemical reactions in your brain or something. And then your beliefs, which is, I don't know, I guess either on morality or religion or something, and how you perceive things, and your general attitude. So it's, I think that's what he's saying. I don't know. This kind of broke my brain, honestly. Maybe I'm just too dumb for this, for this quote. But it seems like he's basically saying that, like, the majority of who you are these things, and these things predetermine, almost predetermine, if not actually, how you are going to react to things. Which I want to start extrapolating from that, but like I don't even know if I'm right about it. Because if I am, then it's like, well, if you're a D2 diehard, then doesn't this kind of say you're incapable of liking another iteration of Diablo, as good or bad as it may be? And frankly, like, I think D2 is better than D3, but doesn't this kind of give it away, the video? Because the video is like basically teeing up like Diablo 4 is not going to be on par with Diablo 2, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding this.
More function like an automatic, unconscious computer program. Your perceptions of the real world and the gaming world are a set of unconscious programs. This theory, along with the misunderstanding of Diablo's core game mechanics, were the real reason why you had these beliefs about Diablo 2 being the greatest game of all time, which I will explain in further detail later on. Chris Wilson, the creator of Path of Exile, studied these theories as well about Diablo 2 when he was creating Path of Exile. Yeah. Chris knew Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time, and he studied the game to its core. Every time you log on to Diablo 2, you have a new experience. Study the game to its core. Every time you
what? Yeah, okay, so this guy knows more about Diablo 2 than I do 10,000-fold. I mean, for context, if you don't know, getting to level 99 is insane. I mean, I talked about the rush to 99, like the kind of world first thing that they did. That's a little different because they were all competing against each other, and they basically had to just like sit on a porta potty and eat all their, you know, like they just sat at a desk for days. But 1, 2, oh my gosh, and that's not even all his characters, I'm guessing. Looks, you know, you can scroll down, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 level 99s just of the first, what is that, like 10? No, 9 characters? God. I mean, on the the Resurrected, which was the remaster, I hit like, I don't even know, like 91 or something, which, like, because the way the leveling system works, it's exponential to some degree. Like, you know, each level takes more experience than the one before it. I forget the stat, but it's something like going from level 98 to 99 takes as much like experience or something as going from level 1 to 98 or something like that. It might be off, but it's probably closer than not if that's not actually the statistic. So the fact that this guy, I mean, this is a flex, and I appreciate and respect the flex, even if to him this is probably like, you know, he's shown it on videos a million times, but like, damn. I mean, for me, it's like I have a level 90 or 91, whatever it was, Sork, and then like a couple level 80s, because that's actually not that hard to grind to. 70, 80 isn't that bad at all. And then the rest are like level 1, what are called mules, where you just you use it to store gear. But this guy is like, I mean, even his ice stuff, which is like Ember stuff, like this is like probably his naming convention, and then like so these are like fire, maybe fire sorcerer gear that he's just like collected, and you do become a bit of a hoarder in this game for sure, like a lot of games. But like even his ice stuff, which is probably a mule or started as a mule, is level 99.
Log on to Diablo 2, you have a new experience because of the RNG mechanics. Every moment is different. It is impossible to have the same experience you had before every time you log on to the game. When you enter the world, the dungeons are randomized.
Yeah, but they're slightly randomized. So let me
along
back
with the
up,
types
actually.
of monsters that spawn, the loot that drops, the map layouts, and even your skill damage ability. Now, when you play Diablo 2, as I said, 95% of your perceptions of the world are unconscious. You unconsciously never knew exactly why Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time.
Okay, well, I mean, he just kind of blows past some of it. So this guy's doing a Bale farm run, which means he's literally going to. I mean, no, I don't see the red. Oh wait, the red portal. Maybe it spawns over here. No, not the red. Anyway, he might have. I was just saying he might have like. He's starting in Act 4, but in any event. So basically, what you're going to see is he's going to run to the waypoint. He's in town. This is the Diablo, the Act 4 town.
Moment is different. It is.
And he is going. He's going to go to Act 5 to the Worldstone Keep level 2. So he's saying like this is all different every time. It's not. Every farming run is largely the same. Now he's going to go along, but what he's talking about is very nuanced differences that matter fairly little. I mean, again, you saw the level this guy's at. Maybe to some like efficiency of shaving off a few seconds here or there. Like when you're on that level, when you're like an Olympic sprinter, you know, shaving off 1/10 of a second or 2/10 of a second is like meaningful. To the vast majority of people, they're not. And honestly, like I feel like other D2 fanatics would even still look at this and be like, okay, every playthrough is unique. I don't think so, because like all you're gonna do is do hundreds of boss runs. You're gonna go to level 2 of the Worldstone Keep, and then you're gonna run through. He doesn't. It looks like he's doing. He's not doing a Hammered In build. This is it Zeal or Smite or I forget. I only ever did a Hammered In because I was vanilla. You know, I'm basic bitch like that. But the reason I say that is that he would have teleport, so he wouldn't actually really be fighting any of these enemies in a farm run. You literally go to level 2, zip around the map with teleport, find the level 3 entrance, go into level 3, zip around the map, go down again, and then find that final level, which is always the same. I'm pretty sure the layout's always the same on the final level. You go like you keep teleporting like 3 walls over, and then you're at the Bale, which is the boss fight. He summons Act 1 wave, Act 2 wave of minions, Act 3 wave, Act 4 wave, and then finally an Act 5 wave. You defeat them all. He does the same laugh after you defeat every wave, and you kind of corpse explodes, but not really the corpses. And then he scurries off through a portal, which takes you into the Worldstone Chamber where you fight Bale. And you kill him in 2 seconds. You know, this guy probably does because his gear is insane, or, you know, pretty much full everything. Kills the boss in a few seconds, and immediately hits the escape button, leaves the game, starts a new one, loads into town, goes to the waypoint.
It is impossible.
Goes to, you know, Worldstone Keep level 2. So, like, so he mentioned the maps are different. I mean, yes, by the strictest definition of different, yes. There's different tiles. You don't know exactly where the door leading to level 3 is, but you know that you need to get to level 3. You know you don't care about the minions around you. The only reason to fight them is to kind of get in your way and clog it up. That's because you don't have teleport, which sorceresses are always going to have teleport. And anyone wearing the Enigma rune word, which is like the most sought after, just in terms of like the number of people who want it, rune word that gives everyone teleport. So tons of builds can actually use teleport, not just the sorcerers. Tons of classes, rather, and builds. So, like, it's not different. Like, you're literally going to these same locations. The map layout is very slightly different, but that's almost what's annoying, because all these guys are doing at the end of the day is, and I mean this literally, hundreds, if not thousands of runs. I mean, you can go and look. Oh, I don't know. You can either take my word for it or go check it out yourself, but you can find YouTube videos of people who will show you the results of running hundreds or even like 1,000 Trivinical runs. And they're almost always looking for rune words, sometimes legendaries, but they're usually, or sorry, not rune words, individual runes to make rune words. And they will show you like, here's my inventory. I ran 300 Trav runs or council runs or whatever. And I found all of these runes. Most of them are, of course, not great. They're not like high runes, which are the valuable ones. And I found like one high rune. I found one Burr rune, which is one of 3 runes you need for Enigma. And that's the game. Truly, that is end-game content in Diablo 2. There's a little bit of PvP. It's not great. If he touches on it, I'll touch on it. I did a little bit of it. This guy's, again, probably done more of it than me, but the majority of endgame Diablo 2 content is PvE, and that PvE content is just running the same thing over and over. He also mentioned that the minions are different. Sometimes there are occasions where they spawn in, but again, it's usually more of like an annoyance. Like you'll be playing a sorceress and you have you'll be doing a lightning build, and then in the World Stonekeep, it'll spawn in guys that are like lightning immune ghosts that kind of almost one-shot you sort of thing. So like slightly different, but again, you're really just like, get out of my way, get out of my way, get on my minion. I don't care. It's not enjoyable to fight you. What I'm really trying to do is get to the boss, kill him in 2 seconds, and then start over. So
experience you had before
unlimited
every time you log on to the game.
replayability.
When you enter the world, the dungeons are randomized, along with the types of monsters that spawn, the loot that drops,
it's just not
the map.
Again, it's true in the strictest sense, but like the spirit of it, the spirit of, if you were to say truly different, I don't think I don't personally believe that this really fits the spirit of like a unique playthrough every time you log in, even across different classes. Like it's still the same game world. It's still designed the same. The tiles are still going to be randomized
layouts,
in a
and
sense.
even your skill damage.
You're always looking for level 3.
Now, when you play Diablo 2, as I said, 95% of your perception.
Like this is the mini map. I mean, this looks like I think that's probably to the level above, maybe, but
of the world are unconscious. You unconsciously never knew exactly why Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time, and these core game mechanics pass right by your awareness. This concept of the Diablo world had you constantly addicted to the rush of wanting new experiences. You just never realized it this whole time. The loot being randomized gave you a sense of...
I feel like the rush of endgame Diablo 2... Now, it's different when you're playing through it, but like once you've played through the game, you go to a harder difficulty, but it is still same as Diablo 3. It's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, and D2. And then you beat Nightmare and you go to Hell difficulty. And it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. So you get basically one real sort of differing playthrough. I don't know. You can stretch that, I guess, in a way to different classes. So go for a source, then you go for a paladin, then you go for a druid, necro, whatever. But the real dopamine hit, personally, and I think most people would agree, is like finding a high tier rune. Like that's what you live for the most part. Like that is what you are farming for. That is what most people are in the game farming for. Is either high runes or potentially maybe some legendaries that they can kind of combine together and trade for a high rune, or a lower tier rune to then combine to trade for a higher tier rune. Different experience. Like, I mean, again, respect to this guy for grinding 99 on all these and doing, like, you do pretty much the same thing, just hundreds of times. And if you like it, you like it, and that's great. Like, nothing against it. Nothing against you, nothing against that. It's just, after a couple hundred runs of it, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. Yes, I'm not level 99, but I'm kind of done with this.
Of overwhelming accomplishment when you found something like such as a high rune. This extreme rarity.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the high runes, one of the more sought after. Enigma, is it Istber? I think it's or Ith. I don't remember. Anyway, but Jaw and Burr are the high runes. And did you find one of these like? I mean, again, it depends on your personality, but do you find one of these after 200 runs or 100 runs? Certainly after 100, if not 200. But like, if you are of the certain personality, like it makes it legitimately worth it. Like you finish and you're like, dope. Like that was worth 200 runs. And if it sounds insane to you, then I think for you personally it is. And for me, it ultimately got to be because I was just like, I don't care. It would be cool to build some enigmas. It would be cool to find a Zod rune, which is like the literal holy grail. It's the most rare rune. It would be cool to do some of these other builds that are far more farm intensive. Like Sorceress is one I always would start on, and it's the easiest because like you get teleport and whatever. But in order to go for some of the more like exotic builds, you need a lot of high tier runes that you kind of take for granted as a sorceress, specifically on Enigma. But in any event, there are people who will get a drop like this. I had friends who would like for days be talking about the Jaw rune they got or the Burr rune they got for literally days, and that would sustain them. It was like an acorn for a squirrel, you know, like in when they would gather. Finding a Jaw rune in this case would be, you know, that acorn that sustains them through the winter of the next 300 runs in which they get literally nothing they need, or nothing that they can reasonably trade for something useful. And if you have that personality type, this game is great and you love it.
Combined with the reward of extreme power left the player feeling like they were truly rewarded for their effort. The reason why Diablo 2 players won't like Diablo 4 is because it doesn't have these core game mechanics of the RNG. In Diablo 4, the world is almost always the same with no RNG. The dungeons are the same repetitive experience over and over again. Fetch a key, run.
I mean, Diablo 2 is insanely repetitive. Like I know this guy, and again, he said it's his favorite game, so maybe this is a blind spot for him. Diablo 2 is insanely repetitive. Now, I did not play Diablo 4. I watched a little bit, but not enough to like really pay attention to the map. So maybe I'm off on this, but and it was like a very small portion of Diablo 4. It wasn't like the whole game, let alone maybe the finished build. But so maybe the dungeons are more linear. I'm imagining they're not going to iterate or do what I would like them to do, which is like take what Diablo 2 did and make it better in the sense that like it's not just different tiles you're placing differently like Diablo 3 still did. But even if they did that, it would still be the same as D3, which would still be similar to D2, which he vehemently disagrees on. He thinks that D3 was vastly different from map tile layout, and to some degree maybe it was, but to me it just more felt like aesthetically bland, although some of D2 was like the World Stone Keep was kind of whatever. But he's saying that there's literally no, like you just run to the same area. If that's the case, I mean, that does suck, but that doesn't
to the left,
right.
Run to the right, and open a door. The monster spawns are somewhat randomized, however, mostly the same. So now let's talk about...
I mean, they're mostly the same in D2. Like, you go to the Chaos Sanctuary, it's like the same guys. You've got the guys that suck your mana and the little ghost guys. You've got the Hell Pit Lord guys or whatever that breathe fire. You've got the mages, both the skeleton guys who are like the mages, and then also the melee variant. And that's it. In fact, that might be a bad example though, because I think that has like literally no variability. But Worldstone Keep has a little bit, but they're all like relatively the same. I think this guy's just, again, he's a massive fan of D2, but like I don't think that there's a huge variability in monster spawn in D2.
Spawns are somewhat randomized, however, mostly the same. So now let's talk about Soulbound.
Maybe he's talking about rare spawns. There were those in D3 though. They were kind of annoying, honestly. They had the little like arcane one that spun in a circle with a laser beam. I definitely got by that one a few times. But he's not really going into it, so I'm like trying to like extrapolate what he means, and if just on its face, like it doesn't ring true with like my experiences with these games.
Items, no trading, and the itemization. So 98%.
Wait, sorry, no trading.
The monster spawns are
somewhat
randomized, however, mostly the same. So now let's talk about soulbound items, no trading, and the itemization. So 98% of the item drops are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term is called personal loot. Class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This
Why would getting a drop for your class?
Items, no trading, and the itemization. So 98% of the item drops are for your class.
Okay. I mean, they do that because casual players hate getting gear that's not for their class, and they don't have... I mean, this guy... And it happens. If you are a mega fan and you play a game, either you're just addicted to it, and or you make content for it, so it's basically your job to play it. You forget that like that's not how most of the people consume these games, the content. You are like, I mean, you saw that guy's character list. Like, my God, he must be in the top. He's at the very least in the top 1%, if not the top like 0.1 or 0.01%, which is impressive. Like, they're pretty competitive there. But that's not most people, and the way he plays is not the way most people play. And most people don't want to like get legendaries that they can't use. And it's like, well, you just like make a character, like you get your barbarian and you get a sorcerer's staff or something that's really good. It's like, I just make a sorcerer's. Like, I don't want to. Like, I'm level 58, and it took me like 3 weeks to get here because I play the game like three times a week for 2 hours. Like, that's not really feasible, and like that's feels shitty. And like, you're kind of like telling someone to play the game in a certain way, which like you can kind of do as a developer, but like you have to cater to some degree, if not mostly, at least to some degree, to casual players, because their $70 spends the exact same as this guy's $70. And I don't know exactly what the monetization. I'm guessing they're gonna have skins. There's no, like, as far as I'm aware, there's no monthly subscription. Either literally like a WoW subscription or even like a VIP, I don't know, some kind of subscription that's like more for just cosmetics or something like that. So at least initially, on release, which is going to be the biggest boon in cash that the game sees, maybe ever across its lifetime, but at the very least, for a while, they have to make a game that people want to play. And like, casuals don't want to get a piece of gear that forces them to like, that they spent 3 weeks, effectively they spent 3 weeks working up to farm that boss or beat that boss, and then they can't use it. It just feels shitty. So again, it's easy to forget, like, this isn't how 99% of the player base is going to consume it. They're going to consume and play the game and enjoy the game, or not enjoy the game differently than you will. And developers have to take that into account when they make the game and the game mechanics.
And gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term
also saying no sense of accomplishment for getting like, I mean, I feel like I'm just not understanding.
Are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term is called personal loot, the same repetitive experience. This is a spin-off concept from World of Warcraft instance
he says
loot, where the loot drops are mostly the same from bosses and...
Oh, well, I guess he's talking like modern WoW. I played a little bit over the years, like a new expansion drop. I haven't played the most recent one, but a new expansion will drop and I'll like mess around for like a month or something. But I was more thinking of like what we call classic now, but like early days WoW, where you would get like a set item for your rogue. Like that, I mean, why does that feel bad and not feel like a sense of accomplishment? Like when you got to Stratholme or, a raid and you get your Beast Stalker for 100, like when you get a piece of gear for you, like why does that inherently feel bad? I'll listen to it one more time, but I don't really understand why that feels bad. So 98%
of the item drops are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term is called personal loot, the same repetitive experience. This is a spin-off concept from World of Warcraft instance loot, where the loot drops are mostly the same from bosses and become soulbound. This has removed the idea of item drops being unique, special, and rewarding.
I mean, item drops unique, special, and rewarding in Diablo 2. They could feel rewarding the first time you got them. The 7th time you got a Shaco or a Enduriel's Visage, or I mean, name a legendary. Like, even if it's tier 1 sort of gear, like, and it's not unique because like everyone's min-maxed the absolute hell out of this game for sure. It's been around for 20 years. People are, as you can tell, very passionate about it. So like everyone of a certain build in a class is basically going to use the same thing. People might mess around a little bit, but especially when it comes to rune wars, you're not going to like, unless you're this guy, you're probably not going to risk using a high tier rune just to experiment. You're going to follow a build from a website. So, like, no, I don't really. It felt good to get my first Shaco on when I was playing the remaster again. I was like, "Wow, that's great! I know this is a really good item." It felt good to get the Oculus, or I forget the other one that's for the other builds on the Sorks, but the other weapon, which I found. But it felt good. But it's like it didn't feel good because I thought I was unique. Unique means one of one. I never felt like I was one of one because I knew it wasn't one of one. Yes, the stats are slightly variable and some are better than others, but like that's a 0.1%er thing of being like, bro, look at this. Like if you were to show an item to somebody, they would know the name if they're casual, like Oculus. What they wouldn't know is that this thing you are showing them is literally the best stats that could be rolled for that item. That is something that only a smaller percentage, if not a very small percentage of people would know. And they would go crazy and be like, holy God, like this is basically more rare than a rune. Like you had 5 or 4 stat lines rolled and all of them were the best. Like that is so insanely, like the math is sort of the statistical math on that is mind boggling. Congrats, awesome. And you feel good, but unique? No.
Moved the idea of item drops being
really
unique, special, and rewarding. This is to appeal to the casual players. Also the World of Warcraft player base because it has a massive following, and they like the concept of instance loot. They don't like RNG based item drops. This gets them interested in the game and makes.
But it's still RNG because otherwise you're just going to get the literal same. I mean, right? Because if it's not RNG, you're literally getting the exact same drop. I don't mean nearly, I mean literally the exact same drop. Like if what they're saying, I mean, and maybe he's right, but I didn't get the sense watching because I certainly saw people be bosses and they weren't just getting the same legendary or legendaries, period. It's almost like what he's saying is you'll always get a legendary from this boss, but maybe you'll roll different stats. But that's not true from what I saw. You get a loot table and you get a random drop. Now, yes, that drop, that legendary might be, he said, I think 98%, or it might be literally 100% of, excuse me, 100% when a legendary drops, it is usable like it is a staff or a sorceress, and it's not going to be a two-handed axe or some heavy plate mail or something they can't wear, or so, like a rogue bow or whatever. But again, like casuals, and I'm pretty much in that. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit beyond a casual, but I at least can kind of remember like what it's like, and it fucking sucks if you don't do this for a living. You're not in content creation, you're not gaming, or you're not just like retired basically. You have an hour or two to play at most for maybe a couple days a week. Like how many legendaries are you going to get dropped? I mean, how many opportunities are you going to have at that dice roll? And it sucks and it feels bad and they hate it. And a million people have said what I'm saying now. And it's just like a fact that like casuals don't want to get gear they can't use. Now you can remedy that with trading, which Diablo 4 isn't going to have, from my understanding. But it sucks. And they don't like it, and that's why they don't design it around it. I don't know what else to say. I think
Blizzard more money from a wider audience. Also, the loot drops were increased for the beta. However, I still think Blizzard is going to have a legend.
Oh, they put literally Shaco. Well, it was called Shaco because that was the base item, but Harlequin Quest was the name of the item. I just paused it because I want to see this real quick.
Legendaries dropping like Rao runes. just to benefit the casual
Raw
player
rune is a
base,
easy rune
and
to get.
also
It drops a
for
lot.
casual players who don't play the game at an end game level. So
Sure.
soulbound items and no trading.
I mean, yeah, and you drop Parallels to WoW, but it's like their $15 a month spends just as much as anybody's. I mean, yeah, if you buy all of their in-game like mounts and stuff that they sell in the store, which is like somewhat recent. I mean, not that recent anymore, but you are you're both customers. Like, you're both players. You're both going to be catered to, and there's for every one of this guy, there are going to be I mean 10,000, 100,000 casuals. Like, this guy is like in the stratosphere of people who play. So yeah, I mean, they're not going to make a game for 0.1 percenters. They're just not. They can't economically. They can't, because people will be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I want to play the game too. It just doesn't work on basically any level other than you as the 0.1 percenters want it to be.
Have you ever heard any player say, I don't like trading?
You got it.
I don't want trading in
Anyone say I
at
don't like
an
trading?
end game level. So soulbound items and no trading. Have you ever heard any player say, I don't like trading?
Not really. So, I mean, maybe the caveat is like, I don't like forced trading. So, forced meaning I am a casual. I got, I'm a sorceress and I got this dope, two-hand bow or whatever as a legendary. I looked it up. It turns out it's actually like good. Now I have to spend 2 hours or something. I mean, in D2 you would literally have to spend time in a new game. You'd open up a new game and it would usually have to be on the normal difficulty because that's where the most eyes got. So you had like the trade-off of creating hell level games of difficulty and farming, which also then would have bots come in and farm bosses behind your back and like speedrun, which is kind of fucking annoying. And you would just see less people would have eyes on those games because it's the highest difficulty, or creating it in like normal, and there's nothing to farm there because you're like, the gear is so like beneath you at that point, and then you're literally just sitting there like waiting in, I don't know, the rogues encampment Act 1, and someone comes in, they're like, yo, can I see it? And you show them whatever you're trying to trade, and you're like, can I have it? And you're like, no, like I said specifically, I need 2 ist runes for this. And they're like, oh, I have 1 ist and 20 p gems. And you're like, dude, that's literally not what I fucking said. Like this isn't a fucking bazaar. This isn't an open market, like flea market. I literally told you what I needed. If you don't have it, get the fuck out. And they're like, okay, whatever, fuck you. And then they leave. And then it's just like an hour or two of that. Like, that's what D2 trading was. I mean, maybe some rose tinted glasses here from a D2 fanatic. Also, this guy probably just knows so many people that he's like, hey, I need like 15 ist runes. And like that, he's got the connections basically where other people have it because they're all other, 0.1 percenters. Or he has a community of fans, of Twitch followers, YouTube, whatever, who he plays with or he has on Discord, and he can just kind of like get stuff. But most of the time, trading on D2 like wasn't very good, frankly. The best part about D2 trading was not trading. It was going into a game called Free Stuff and just seeing some high level guy drop like 8,000 legendaries and everyone running around trying to scoop up something that could legitimately help you. Now, you would think in D4, like D3 had a real money auction house, even just a non-real money regular auction house, there would be a better system. So you wouldn't have to go through all of that, but it would be complex enough to be like a little annoying for a new player or a casual of like, if it's a barter system, because like they tend to fuck up gold in these games, and gold is just kind of like not that useful. If they did gold right, they could literally just do it like gold, like an auction house, like in WoW. Other than that, you'd have to do a barter, and then it's like, I want this item, and then you're having to like adjust. I want this staff that has +2 to all X or higher, like 2 or higher to all skills, and 10 to 20% or higher for cold dance. It's just like go through all these things, and then there's all these filters, and it's like that's also annoying to a casual player. But honestly, no. Like, I think most people are in favor of trading.
I don't want trading in Diablo 4. Never. Let's say you find a Zod rune.
Sorry to keep pausing, but I've never found one of these. Most people have never found one of these. This is the rarest, sexiest rune. Maybe not the most sought after. I mean, probably the most sought after from rarity. And like, goddamn, find one of these. Honestly, you find one of these and you beat the game. I know you can never beat Diablo 2, but I'd make a case that if you found one of these, you beat the game. Sorry.
The rarest rune in the entire game of Diablo 2 that is for a build like a barbarian. And you found it on a sorceress, so now it has no use to you. If this was Diablo 4, you couldn't trade it. One of the rarest items in the game, and you now have to just salvage it. Even though item drops are class based, what if it's not for your build? Will this happen in Diablo 4? Most likely. This theory isn't absolute because we haven't experienced end game. So why does Blizzard want no trading when 98% of the Diablo community wants trading?
98%. I think that's the second time he's used that statistic, which sounds like it's not a statistic and just a number he made up. But it's probably accurate. Again, I think most people would. So why doesn't Blizzard want trading? I just figured we'll try to guess here. You can try to guess on your own as well. But cynically, money. I mean, I don't know what their monetization entirely looks like. I mean, goddamn, if it's anything like Diablo Immortal. But they did the token in WoW, which is basically a way to buy gold from Blizzard, which they spent years trying to combat Chinese gold farmers and just gold farmers in general. I knew kids in high school who made legitimate cash. I'm talking hundreds of dollars, at least a month, if not a year, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're a kid, especially back then when gas is like not the price it is now, and like all you really had to cover was like gas, food, and like maybe a few other things to have a good time. But yeah, they made serious money selling gold. So cynically, maybe it's money. Maybe there's going to be some kind of way to basically pay to win in Diablo 4. I really think people would revolt. I mean, Diablo Immortal was supposed to be mobile exclusive. They brought it to PC. That was pay to win, and like people hated it, but like I guess, I don't know, kind of in a way maybe gets a pass. I didn't play it. I just kind of ignored it. Why else? I guess like fraud or something. I mean, that's mainly an issue of like the trading system in Diablo 2. Like the whole like you put an item in the trade window and then you swap it out with an item that looks exactly the same, and then if you aren't careful and like making sure you read it and you let them recheck the checkbox, like you can get scammed in that way. Scamming is always going to be a thing. I mean, people in WoW got scammed in various degrees of either dumb or ingenious scams. But the idea that you're going to then kneecap or like penalize the rest of the player base who wants this just because you're trying to, like, at that point you're being overprotective of, a couple people. Those are the only two I can think of. Yeah.
There are many theories to this. One is Blizzard thinks this will fix real money trading. However,
yeah, so like
there will always be,
and this sucks because like you guys can fit. I mean, I don't know, just like I don't necessarily have the answer, but you're a huge, massive company with either smart people and or the ability to attract with money smart people to solve this problem. I get not spending money as like, maximizing shareholder, blah, 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 but solve the problem. I mean, literally gutting an important part of a community game, a community aspect of a game that is supposed to and like, I mean, like the only thing I'd say to that is like get your shit together, which they won't because they don't seem. I mean, if there's not going to be trading, there's not going to be trading. But yeah, and I guess he's about to say this won't fix it because where there's a will, there's a way. And yeah, like I mean, criminals always seem to find a way around. Like every time a new console comes out, they're like, you can't hack this console; it's unhackable. Like you can't modify it in a way that like lets you copy games or does X and Y or whatever it is. And then like within 24 hours, they beat it. Every security thing is like always defeated. So the idea that this solves it probably doesn't, and it fucking sucks for the vast 99. I will pull a 99.99% stat on this one that like most of us don't do real money trading, frankly.
Real money trading when trading is available in any kind of form. There's no fixed RMT.
Yeah, and sorry, I realize I paused this 300,000 times, but I mean, you see like one account like constantly do something outside the norm. I mean, there's analytics that you can run within the game. Yes, it's expensive because you effectively are feeding event data into like a data warehouse somewhere, and then you have to have a data analytics team or a data science team, query it. But like, spend that money. It's a cost that you need to have for a 2023 game that is online all the, and like has, you're really just like killing a part of it. It's like when you see someone who's like has never traded more than, let's say like, and let's just say it's gold based, like somebody who's never traded more than 10,000 gold, either received or given in a trade, and then all of a sudden they get 1 million gold one time for an item that is effectively useless, like a gray item. I mean, that's a giant red flag, and like you just fucking flag it and have somebody look into it. I mean, I don't know.
Unless the game is completely solo self-found. Blizzard wants you to actually find the items yourself to complete your character. In other words, they just want you to be solo self-found.
But if it's supposed to be kind of like an MMO, no. I mean, no. Because also, like, how are you're gonna play with somebody, and they're gonna get a mythic, and you're going to not get a mythic, and now they're able to complete content that's harder because they're stronger, and you're essentially a liability at that point, and then you get left behind. I mean, the idea that like they want you to
this
find
restricts the player from having the freedom to make their own choices. Instead, they should just have a self-found league like Path of Exile. They're literally forcing the player base to be solo self-found. Another theory is they are trying to appeal to a wider audience of players, which is probably World of Warcraft, where Soulbound...
Is there a huge overlap? I mean, Blizzard there are like Blizzard fans, whatever, who will play like kind of whatever release, regardless of the genre, but like, is there a huge overlap here? Like, are they really... Maybe there is. I don't know. I'm literally asking because I don't know, but like, this guy seems to have some disdain for WoW. Or at least WoW mechanics, if not actual WoW players. And he seems to almost be like gatekeeping, in a sense. So.
Items are the pathway to endgame gear completion. The next theory is they personally think this is the best for the game and its future, regardless of community feedback. And the last theory is they think Diablo 3 was a success based on sales of 30 million copies without trading. However, when Diablo 3 was released, everyone hated the game and it died. The game
I'm glad I kept going. Sorry, did he just say everyone hated Diablo 3
without trading? However, when Diablo 3 was released, everyone hated the game and it died. The game
Okay, well, it died is like relative, and like it kind of did, honestly. Actually, yeah. I remember watching, it's less than I would have thought. Like I used to watch the people on D2. So like highest is 189. I don't think I've ever watched anyone on 243. So what was it, like 700? 750 to call it 250. So like basically 3x. So a 3x in Twitch viewership. All right, well, let's first say he said everyone hated it on release. I think that's just straight up patently wrong. What everyone hated was the inability to get in the game and constantly getting disconnected. It was called error 37. Keep thinking 33. I'm pretty sure it's 37. Anyway, it was basically like you couldn't play the game. I mean, every game. Pick a game and everyone on release day just like fumbles the shit out of the ball and nobody can get in or gets disconnected. There's just like massive issues. And D3 was no different. Other than that, I'm trying to think like when you could play the game, it was great until maybe Act 2, where you had these stupid like wasp guys that there was some bug that would like, so they had these wasps that would shoot smaller wasps. Sounds so dumb. But and the projectiles were like smaller wasps and they traveled slow and you could dodge them easily enough. But there was a bug where they would be like invisible, I think, or you couldn't see them. And so and they did huge amounts of damage, but the idea being they were really slow that like you would never really get hit by them. But with them being invisible, you couldn't see and you would just fucking die out of nowhere. And then there were some other bugs within Act 2 also. So, you kind of went from like not being able to play to like having fun to then getting to Act 2 and like being like, what the fuck are these bugs? Like, this sucks. So that kind of sucked. But like, dude, I had friends who I didn't even know played video games. Like literally at all. Play D3. Like the idea that everyone hated it on release, I think is just completely wrong. The idea that it died, I mean, you see like D2, which technically had a release a year or two, a couple of years ago with the remaster. So like technically it's had a more recent release, but again, I still, and I think this guy would agree, I think D2 is better than D3, just as from a replayability and long-term sort of standpoint. So the last part of that where he says it died, it did, but people loved the hell out of it initially. Other than those launch day error 37 and like some bugs, but like the idea that I think he said like everyone hated it.
It was a success based on sales of 30 million copies without trading. However, when Diablo 3 was released, everyone hated the game. And
yeah, I think this is just like insane bias from him. He might have hated it on release. His friends might have hated it. So it was like what they call an echo chamber. The guy's a massive D2 fan, so it is what it is. But yeah,
it died.
The
game had 200 Twitch viewers for years. The game was completely lifeless.
That's pretty much how they have now.
Had 40,000 players online in 2016.
Okay. I mean, he doesn't show a date for the bottom one. I mean, we just checked D2, and I'm guessing, but like, it doesn't really show a date. Friday, November 18th. That's his last logon.
And for some reason, Blizzard still seems to think that the game was a success.
It could be true, though.
In the franchise,
D2 has
like
a decent player base still.
It doesn't matter if the album or if the music or if the game is even good at all. It's going to sell millions of copies just because of the hype around the name.
Probably.
So let's talk about the constant restrictions.
They'll probably sell a few
of
million
gameplay.
copies.
Diablo 4 is advertised as an open world game. The world makes you feel restricted on the places you can go because there are barriers everywhere. The dungeons are usually...
Yeah, I don't know why they're marketing it like an open world game. Nothing I saw made me feel... It felt like Diablo 2, which is also restrictive, but it, I mean, it's not Zelda, the last two games that came out. It's not Tears of the Kingdom. It's not Breath of the Wild. It's not even Skyrim levels of open world, let alone... older Elder Scrolls games. It's not anything of the sort. You have these like areas that are thematically like ice, sand, or whatever, and then you have to go into deeper levels and then go up, and then I mean, like this guy's not going to be able to jump up. You see in the map, like right here, the lighter color areas. This is where you can move. This is a little corridor. You cannot go here. You cannot go here. I don't believe you can. I've never seen anyone, but you can't go anywhere but these paths.
One pathway, and it literally
weird
makes
for them
you
to make
feel
it
trapped in the world. Diablo 2 was 10 times more open world than this.
10 times? No.
And I'm not sure why
I can pause it and be like,
I just world this way
think this is completely
when it was
wrong.
supposed to be open world. There are many aspects of the game.
It seems like D2 is exactly as restrictive as D4 and vice versa. It's just maybe egregious because D4 markets itself as open world when it's not. But yeah, the idea 10 times more open. I mean, yes. I mean, this might be cherry picking because I don't know this part of D4, what this represents. Like there are narrow corridor. You go to like the crystal, what is it, like the crystalline path or river or whatever, and Act 5. Like, there are narrow passages in D2. But the way D2 is more designed is it's like a giant box, and then you have like a bunch of different like fucking smaller boxes that are rooms that you can go in and out of. But in terms of like your pathing, like this could effectively be a D2 map. It's just like up here is the up to level 1, and then down here is down to level 2, and like this is the most direct path, and that's where you need to go. It's just in D2 you would like wander around different rooms and open little rooms that would lead to nowhere, and sort of. So like I guess to a degree, yeah. 10 times more open? I don't know. And again, is this cherry picking, this part right here?
Are usually one pathway, and it
I don't
literally
know. I mean, it looks like he got D4 access, actually. Isn't that him next to
makes
this?
you feel trapped in the world. Diablo 2 was 10 times more open world than this, and I'm not sure why Blizzard has designed the world this way when it was supposed to be open world. There are many
fair
aspects
criticism,
of the
though.
game
That's totally
that
fair.
restrict you from where you really want to go and things you want to do. You can't go wherever you want because of the barriers in the open world, and you can't trade all of them.
Although all open worlds have barriers. Like, yes, it's open world, but then when you go in some place and get one shot by like a mega enemy, like, okay, it's open world, you can go there. And maybe if you're like a master at the game and you're one of these like blindfold speedrunners, like you could do that effectively. You could dodge pixel perfect every boss attack, every whatever, and like go from as a level 1 or equivalent to like the end game. But yes, while they're not literal barriers like invisible walls that stop you from going, there are gameplay elements like hard enemies or like temperatures, or like a literal level check that like you can't descend into hell because if you're not level 50 you just like die, kind of thing. Like there's always barriers. So yes, lighter touch is always better. It's better for immersion.
Items either, and aspects can only be applied to certain items. You constantly have to salvage, enchant items, extract legendaries, etc. There's always something restricting you from progressing, when instead you should just be out in the world killing stuff, not crafting constantly in the main city like World of Warcraft. These features...
Is anyone out there crafting constantly in WoW? Granted, I'm not a super big WoW head. Like I said, I've played a decent amount, but the idea that you're crafting all the time, like you would need bot levels of farming ore or whatever, leather, to be crafted. Even just queuing up a full 60 minutes of crafting would take an incredible amount of materials, of raw mats. So
crafting constantly in the main city like World of Warcraft. These features should be choices, not requirements. And this is where Diablo 2 got something almost perfect, because there was crafting and there were ways to enchant your items and do other different types of crafting and enchanting abilities. It's just you didn't absolutely have to do it to be able to progress your character in the game.
True, but if you're on this guy's level and you're farming like him, you might as well use the cube, which he just made an amulet. It's basically just rolling of the dice. It's like in-game gambling, effectively. You might as well. Like, there's no reason not to. You can get really powerful gear. You're going to have a lot, if not all of the materials needed to do so anyway. And it'll save you time because you might end up needing to trade for something like an amulet with good stats anyway. So
when you're
if you want to get to this guy's level, you got to do all of this.
Completing the Diablo 4 story and questing, you can skip the cutscenes. However, you still spend hours of time hitting your escape key to skip the cutscenes. Every side quest has the same boring scene. Also, every quest is a lot of walking and a lot of talking to NPCs.
Okay, it's whether you want. If it's not, it's meant to be immersive, right? And if it's not doing it, then they failed. But like, that's the intent. Now, again, if you're a D2 fanatic, you haven't talked to an NPC and gotten a line of dialogue in like 8,000 hours of gameplay, because you've already talked to them and gotten the lines of dialogue out of the way for the quest. You don't even listen to it; you just click through it anyway, and then you do 8,000 bail runs. Like, that's what you do. And if that's the gameplay you want, that might not be the gameplay here. Maybe. I don't know. It might be. It might be once you beat all of this. But this almost feels like a speedrunner mindset of like, why is this unskippable dialogue happening behind this door? I don't know, but I'm just saying, for example, behind this door is the boss who I need to farm. So now instead of like a 1 minute 29-second run with this dialogue, it's now like a 2 minute and 10-second run, and it's a quote waste of time. Well, it's like, okay, but most people aren't going to be running this 8,000 times.
I don't know how many.
We're trying to be immersive here. Maybe they failed,
all the way
but
across the map for so many quests when I could just be out there killing stuff. It feels like they are trying to make the game an open world type atmosphere similar to World of Warcraft with a action RPG spin-off that has
that could be, and they could have failed. So it could be just a lot of like mindless trekking around, and because you don't care about the world, and or they didn't make it compelling enough for you to actually care about it, then you don't. And I mean, people also don't like this necessarily in all MMOs. Like, there's plenty of quests where it's like, why the hell do I have to go all the way back across the continent to like talk to an NPC to come all the way back? You know,
restrictions. So, rune words are not completed for the release of the game.
Interesting. I knew there were going to be runes.
They were a feature Blizzard announced to try to get Diablo 2 players into Diablo 4. This is basically the same thing as socketing an item with a jewel or a perfect gem. They are not rune words. You just get different effects based on the rune.
Well, that's a bummer. I didn't actually know this, so he taught me something here. So for those who don't know, and he showed it before, rune words are like kind of all of the end game. I mean, there's some legendaries. It's a mixed match of rune words and legendaries, but basically you get socketed. You have to get an item that has sockets, the correct number of sockets, the exact number, and it can't be like a magic or rare or legendary. It has to be just vanilla item. You put in runes in a specific order, and it turns it into a rune word, which becomes, in some cases, massively powerful and truly best in slot. Here it looks like that's not what they're doing, although as much as I want rune words, and hopefully they bring it back, either maybe it is in the base game, maybe it's an expansion, this is like kind of like rune words. Well, I was going to say 0.5, but this effect, I don't know, maybe 0.25, because you kind of want to know, you don't want a random skill cooldown, you want a specific one for your rotation. But anyway, this seems like what they're doing is actually, no, you can put runes with, in a specific order in this case, a rare chest armor, and it will still have like a rune word type effect, though not as powerful as a rune word in D2. But in D2, if you were to like get a 4-socketed rare chest item and try to make a 4 rune word, it wouldn't work. It would just give you the base stats of this. So that's different. Is it better? I don't know. Personally, I like rune words. Sounds like he does too. I mean, he's a D2 fanatic, so he must literally love rune words, and he almost certainly knows them all by heart, and can tell you what each rune word is made up of. So. Kind of a bummer, honestly. I'm with him there. And yeah, if they want to like really suck in D2 players who are just unwilling to give D4 a chance, I guess it does kind of feel like a bait and switch to not do real rune words, but
you just get different effects based on the rune. The feature isn't completed, and I'm sure Blizzard will use this in an upcoming patch to gain hype. Enigma. I don't think they understand the complex game mechanics for rune words, because this requires a lot of testing and knowledge to be balanced properly. And most of the devs at Blizzard that work on Diablo games, I don't think they know anything about Diablo 2. And I also never see them ever playing the game. It just seems like they have a job, and working at Blizzard is really cool, so they just like to be at Blizzard for the clout.
Well, this was kind of a hard left turn. He says, I don't think they know anything about Diablo 2, which is like kind of hard to believe. It's possible. I mean, I think people are saying the same thing about WoW devs, or either jokingly or in reality, that WoW devs don't play their game. Honestly, it would surprise me more for D2, if only because of how prolific and how much of an impact D2 had on the game. I mean, it would be like it would be like saying a WoW dev had never played WoW versus they don't play currently, which still isn't great. But there's a difference, I think, between like I have never played WoW and I'm a WoW dev, and I haven't played this patch that I worked on or this expansion that I worked on even. So I don't know if he has any. He just says, and I've never seen them play, which is like, I mean, what do you want, like Blizzard to live stream their employees playing games? Like, these guys don't live stream on their own. Why would you have seen them? I mean, I started streaming just a week ago. Like, so according to this guy, I've never played Diablo 2 because I've never streamed it. This just seems like
the devs at Blizzard that
kind
work
of an
on
uncalled
Diablo
for
games, I don't think they know
here.
anything about Diablo 2. And I also never
like, he's basically like, when you say you don't know anything about it, you're basically like, you're an idiot, is effectively what you're saying. That seems
see them ever playing the game. It just seems like they have a job, and working at Blizzard is really cool. So
I mean, maybe it
they
is,
just
but
like to be at Blizzard for the
evidence?
clout and the hype. I never seen
Screenshots?
one Blizzard employee actually play the game, so I assume they don't have much knowledge or passion. Diablo.
All right, this guy, this is just a
mechanics
dick
that-
comment, dude. I don't know. This feels like a hard left turn, honestly. Maybe this comes from somewhere, but saying they don't have any knowledge, any passion because you've never seen them play the game. Why would you? I mean, again, unless they're streaming, like why, like on their own time, basically, like why would you ever have seen them play a 20-year-old game or a remaster that came out? Even so, like, and then extrapolating from that they have no knowledge or passion. It's like, I mean, he mentioned at the beginning that he's like the bad boy, right? Like he doesn't have Blizzard, like Blizzard doesn't, I think he said, I think it's like sponsored or something like that. I think it was sponsored. I mean, is this why? Like, this is just, I mean, again, this isn't the worst thing I've heard by any stretch of people say, but you say this stuff like this enough times, it's like, why are we giving this guy like access to just shit on us more? Like, I don't know. This seems uncalled for. If I was a guy at Blizzard, I'd be like, I mean, this guy can fuck off. Like, he can learn to like just be a little bit less of a dick, basically. Or he can't, and he can like wait until the game drops like everyone else and play it then.
Come from the other games such as Diablo 2. This is probably why they copy and paste Diablo 3, because they don't actually understand Diablo at all. This is why the skill tree is like Path of Exile.
I mean,
and
he says they copy and paste, but this isn't in Diablo 3. Like, was it? No, the skill system was like just like lines of like random shit you unlock and then like modifiers, which this might be, but like this is different. And I mean, do they copy and paste? I mean, the engine and stuff is like going to be expanded and built upon. I guess Diablo Immortal came out. I don't know if they forked that differently or like off for Diablo Immortal, and this is like its sort of base upgrade to the base engine. But what were you expecting for them to just like from the ground up create a brand new everything for Diablo 4? It's literally the fourth installment. Like, it's drawing upon many of the things from previous entries. So
the rest of the game is just like World of Warcraft with a spin-off. It doesn't seem like PvP is going to be completed for the release.
Yeah.
This is impossible to balance with the current version of the game because my chain lightning
so no
does more
PvP at the
damage
start.
than my actual health.
PvP in D2, maybe I'm casual, whatever, but I don't think it was that good. It was in the dozens or so of games back in like the mid 2000s that I joined that were PvP, like in game. I could count on one hand and not even probably use all the fingers how many good games there were of like PvP that was basically, what I say is a good game is like you're fighting against somebody with a similar skill level and similar gear, because both of those things will definitely outweigh like, or like give you just a lopsided match. Like, you can be good and have shit gear, and chances are someone can still one tap you with a fucking seeking arrow from their Amazon. Probably. I mean, if you're good, you can dodge some of them. But in any event, I didn't think PvP was that good. I never got the sense it was really a focus. It was just sort of like a cool thing they noodled on as devs, which is also like a old school Blizzard, like, they just did cool things like that. You could see them. You could really like see that happening, where it's like that was never slated to be a PvP mode, but like some guy stayed after on work, and they were like, "Man, wouldn't it be cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was cool," and just like full of passion, just developed something that was like. And then they showed it to their team lead, who was like, "Holy shit, you guys like worked on this on your off hours, and you still got all your work done." Like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, I'll show it to the game lead, like, or whatever, the game director, and the game director likes it. It's like, fuck it, let's put it in. This is great. Good job, guys. This is awesome. This is even more content. It's a nice cherry on top. But I never got the sense it was a point that they really wanted. And like it never really matriculated in or it became a thing like Diablo 3. So will we even see it in D4? I don't know. Personally, as somebody who didn't care too much about it or like it that much, will I care? Again, my opinion, not really. I mean, how do you do 1.6 million damage per hit to a boss and then figure out how to feel powerful but balanced in PvP?
If Blizzard wanted, they could balance PvP and get the game on an esports level of popularity.
Could they? I mean, anybody can do anything,
for the
can
game
they?
as much as they do World of Warcraft. I
mean, they've been bricking, like, not even bricking is harsh, but I mean, they haven't exactly been knocking it out of the park recently for whatever reason you believe. So like, he just sort of takes it as you can do this. It's like anybody can do anything, but like in theory. But could they? I don't know. I don't know if this game really lends itself well to PvP, or if the developers working on it, even back in D2 days, really like comprehended what a thorough, balanced, fun PvP would be that everyone really liked.
We won't see many major content patches because after 2 years, they will make the majority of the money that there is to make from Diablo 4. I don't see Blizzard making enough money off cosmetics, battle passes for them to actually care for the game as much as they care for World of Warcraft.
Isn't PoE, I mean, it is free to play and therefore it's entirely funded. I don't think they do anything like a WoW token on PoE. So isn't it entirely funded by cosmetics? I think it is. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. But that game's existed for a decade, maybe longer. I don't actually know when it came out, but that game's existed forever purely on cosmetics. So it can happen. You just have to have people who want to buy it, and you have to have enough diehards that are willing to buy it.
Maybe if the game was a subscription-based game, it's just over time they won't make enough money from the game anymore. So I don't really see them continuing to develop more features and more of the end game in the future. Also, there seems to be what I call a culture flip or a new age of Diablo players that actually like Diablo 3 and even Diablo 4 game mechanics.
Okay.
After the release of Diablo 3, everyone hated the game, even before it was
there's no reason with
that actually liked Diablo 3 and even Diablo 4 game mechanics. After the release of Diablo 3, everyone hated the game.
He says this again, like, no. No.
Also, the game died while Diablo 2, as I said, had 40,000 players online. I will say I love Diablo 4, and so far it is a wonderful game. However, everything that made the franchise unique compared to other games has been dismissed for years. And this is why there's an outrage from Diablo 2 players. All we wanted was a new game that was similar to Diablo 2 and its core.
I mean, to what degree it needed to be changed because times change, and to what degree did they drop the thread and allow people like PoE or companies, games like PoE to pick it up and basically eat their lunch? I mean, WoW had the same thing. You know, you think you want it, but you don't. And then they did classic servers, and classic servers were huge. And I don't know where they are now, but for a while they were big, and they brought a lot of people back and therefore money back. And they reintroduced, I think this expansion, they did talent trees again, which were dropped off like 10 years ago. So yeah, there is a balance. There is we need to go back and find where we lost a little bit of magic, a little bit of the appeal, but there is also like iterate or die. I mean, you can't keep something unchanged because the gaming industry and any industry in general, but gaming industry is brutal, and someone will come and take exactly what you spent years developing, copy it, add 3 new things, and everyone will play that. Look at PUBG versus Fortnite. I mean, look at, like, there's so many examples. And maybe they don't quite dominate you the way Fortnite ended up dominating PUBG, but even if they're taking a huge chunk of your market share, even if they're equal to you, That's still all players and revenue that you would have had. So you can't just do nothing. You can't just create Diablo 2 with better graphics. And I mean that literally. You can't literally just create a Diablo 2 with better graphics. Ironically, yes, I know they made a remastered and it sold, and I bought it and I played it. But you get what I mean.
Game mechanics such as rune words and end game. It's surprising to me that this new age of Diablo players tell us to go play Diablo 2 if we like it so much, and tell us we're on some kind of nostalgia trip, when everyone hated Diablo 3 to begin with.
No, again, like show your work on this one. That is such a definitive and bold statement, and fine, show your work. Like, I don't know, maybe you could convince me. The problem is I'm not convinced, and I'm not convinced because you haven't convinced me. So to say, I think now 3 times in the video, everyone hated Diablo 3 on release is like, no. Just no. At the very least, you've got to, show your work, as they say. Now people saying, go play Diablo 2, like, also, like, fuck off. No, I will talk to the developers of a franchise in which I'm talking as this guy, but I will talk to the developers of a franchise I basically dedicated my life to about where I feel like things are going wrong. And you snippy jerk off on the internet aren't going to like tell me not to do that or try and make me feel like I shouldn't do that. So whatever. But yeah, I mean, just flat out saying everyone hated Diablo 3 is
trip. When everyone hated Diablo 3 to begin with. So I guess it's just a new age for Diablo.
Yeah? I mean, it was in D3. Oh, that's the end. Okay. I could have just let it roll through them. Yeah, so interesting video. There's definitely areas that I flat out disagree with, some that I slightly disagree, and then certainly some I agree with. By Guy Extimus, by all available. I mean, he looks like he makes an absolute ton of content for Diablo 2, so Guy undoubtedly knows way more than I do. Lots of. He's grateful as a D2 player. I'm a D2 player and think D4 is more fun. The end gameplay is we haven't really seen end game though, right? Might be more challenging. I mean, yeah, end game for D2 is literally, especially once you get to a point, it's almost like, why are you still farming? But like, it's like one of those never-ending kind of ridiculous cycles where it's like I farm to get gear to farm faster and or higher tier bosses, higher difficulty to get better gear, to farm those bosses faster for better gear to farm. And you're just like, wait, what? Like, I can literally beat, hell difficulty Diablo or Baal without any chance of dying in mere seconds, and I'm still farming runes. So, and it's just not challenging at that point. But you do have to do a fair amount of gameplay and know a decent amount about builds and resistances and some other stuff to get there. But by today's metrics, do I think it's difficult? Not really. It is just an absolute slog and a huge time sink to get high tier runes. Eximus, I don't get any respect from Blizzard as a creator. Also, Eximus, none of the developers or anyone working at Blizzard has any passion or experience for Diablo, and they are just working there for clout. Yeah, that was kind of that's kind of what I said. No passion, no experience playing Diablo 2 or whatever. And he responds, I don't need or want respect from a company that has no morals. And just some snippy comments that I don't really care about. So, I mean, I don't know about the morals might be in reference to some other company issues that they've had. Valid. But it kind of does sound like he would like, I mean, it's hard to ever get someone, and I've been there myself, and we all have an ego. I imagine, though, if he was perfectly honest with himself, he would like some level of recognition and access, and maybe it's not a direct sponsorship, but it does feel like he would like some level of recognition from them. And you could argue that he's earned it because he's made all these. I think I've watched a few of these. I don't remember watching this, but I'm guessing I watched this when I played Remaster, or what's it called? Resurrected, to like refresh my memory on, in this case, rune words. Why Diablo 2 players hate every game that isn't Diablo 2? Just a snippy comment. Doesn't really mean I mean, I get what he's saying, but anyway. What game of Diablo 2 did you play? How is it a different experience each time? Now, this is what I was talking. I mentioned this. If I start 20 barbarians and get them Bloodraven, which is the Act 1, it's basically like the second objective and a boss in Act 1. Do you think I'm going to end up with 20 different stories to tell? Yeah, no. The world has 2 different versions. Either the world faces left or the world. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more than that because the way the map tile randomization works, but yeah. He played as much as you claim, which I think he has. I mean, looking at his videos, I think he has. You know this. Yeah, the rooms are arranged differently, but if you've done a dungeon once, you already know how to beat it. True. It's not like these are random puzzles. True. There's infinite replayability. I thought that was one word. Anyway, because you may really want an axe, but keep getting legendary swords, so you got to go and get a sword. That's kind of choices forcing you into bet. Yeah, I mean, this is almost what I said, basically. So I agree with that. No, might as well just start leaving likes. I don't know. Man, I have 0 clue how Diablo was actually played back in the day. My first experience with D3, so I don't know anything prior to that. Only now. Experienced some D2R, Diablo 2 Resurrected, and anxious waiting for D4's release. Maybe someday I'll get to learn. I mean, sure, or not. It's up to you. All right. I just wanted to read a few comments. It seems like a certain number of people are basically kind of pushing back on mainly the points that I think deserve to be pushed back on. But, you know, other than a few snippy comments, which you'll find in any YouTube video. But yeah, decent, solid video. Guy knows what's up with the game. Might not agree with some of his points, but in terms of mechanics, this guy's probably as knowledgeable as anyone. I'll link the description in the description, the video itself. And yeah, thanks to everyone who made it all the way through this first react. If you wouldn't mind, I'm, like I said, new to content creation. This is a new channel. If you have any feedback, constructive, hopefully, let me know in the comments as well. If I'm making novice errors, or if you have videos you want to see, or content you'd like to see, that's also would be great as well. But yeah, appreciate anyone who stopped by. We are in the early days here, so every single view, as long or short as it may be, I really do appreciate. And I'll look to see you guys on the next one. I hope you have a great day.